Good morning. My name is Sue Shade, and my pronouns are she and her. It's my honor to be in the pulpit today as the worship associate with Reverend Dara. We gratefully acknowledge the Patuxet Wampanoag people on whose ancestral lands we gather today. We commit to support and honor their history and culture. We welcome all of you, members and friends, and newcomers alike, whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whatever your age, young or older, for this 1 hour you are part of this congregation and you are welcome. Everyone is invited to coffee hour following the service in the Assembly Hall. Through this door to my left, just follow the crowds. And for those who are visiting, please take a red mug so that we can offer you a warm First Parish greeting. And I have a red mug somewhere, but you also know what red looks like. Okay. We do have some announcements today. Check out your insert in the order of service. At 11:30, there is a meeting for the group Defending Democracy, which we know we need. This afternoon, whoever planned the Sunday supper on the beach must have known about the weather, right? Amazing. So the church will provide pizza. It says what else you need to bring here, and also a special note, if you are non-Duxbury resident, which many of us are, it's early enough that you can park okay in the beach parking lot. So check that out. And our monthly youth group will be meeting today from 6 to 8. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So excited to see you all here. My name is Dara Bryans. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the minister here at First Parish Church in Duxbury. And before our service begins, my weekly gentle reminder to please silence your cell phones so that we can preserve our sacred space and time here together. Our opening words this morning are called With Dirt on Our Hands, and they were written by professor, writer, and UU minister, Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Come into this moment as if stepping into a garden at dawn, quiet, tender, open to what may grow. Let compassion be the flower we bend toward. We return as if returning to the soil, hands in the dirt, willing to tend what needs tending. Here today we gather to remember that the most delicate blooms require daily care, that attention is the water of love, that we are still learning how to care. Come, let us begin again in love, tending the garden of the heart and the heart of compassion. Let us worship together. Our opening hymn this morning is How Could Anyone? And it is a song of healing and empowerment from Alaskan singer-songwriter Libby Roderick. The soul singers are going to come up and help lead us in singing this hymn. The lyrics are at number 1053 and our teal hymnals, and they'll be on the screen. And I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing.
And we'll sing it 3 times.
3 times through, Elaine says.
Anything less than beautiful. How could anyone
liturgy. Please remain risen for the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith.
Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek.
Its brightness dispelling moon, lighting a path to faith and hope.
Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds that link us to all living things.
Its radiance calling us to cast the light of freedom, justice, and peace on all the world.
You may be seated, and I love hearing that little organ. I just think it's got a fabulous sound. It is the time to sing our children off to their religious exploration classes, so you are invited to join us in singing This Little Light of Mine as our children go to their classes. This is the time in our service where each week we lift up the joys and the concerns that we carry with us into our sanctuary. We bring these joys and concerns and share them because we know that when we share a joy, that joy is amplified. And when we share those that are challenges, our sorrows, and our difficulties, that we can, for a brief moment, allow others to carry them with us and be held in loving community. For those of you joining online, as always, you're welcome to email me by Saturday night, and I will include your joy and concern and care for the world in this part of our service. Oh, you can email me at revdara@uudux.org. So this morning, I have a joy from Pat Slechta. My son, John, got engaged on Mother's Day. Woo! Mark and I are over the moon with joy. So exciting. The second joy we have is from our pastoral care team, which reports that Betty Thornton will be celebrating her 101st birthday soon. Cards, notes to her home would be much appreciated. And we have a joy from Heidi and the Connor family that was emailed to me. Heidi writes, Julia is graduating this morning from Connecticut College, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, and with honors and distinction in her double major of psychology and English. We are so proud of her. No, it goes on. You can clap at the end. We are so proud of her and grateful to everyone at First Parish who has helped support her, has shown her kindness, and helped her to grow along the way. At a time when we have so many concerns in our world, it is good to be reminded that this year and every year, thousands of young adults with courage and a vision for a better world are graduating, eager to take on the challenges we're facing. And now, and I have a joy to share, which was that my kids took me to dinner on Mother's Day, and those were the flowers from my Mother's Day, and I brought them in case we needed flowers. I'm not sure who put those up, but thank you for those beautiful flowers. Thank you so much. It's not in the order of service, so thank you for those beautiful flowers as well. Concern. We have one concern from Michael Gardner. Oh, we light a candle first for our joys. I got discombobulated with my joy. We've lit. Sue's on top of things. And now we can move on to our concern from Michael. Tori Butler is in the hospital recovering from COVID, but hopes to be home soon. She is now off oxygen and asked to say hello to everyone in church. So grateful that she's doing well and will be back soon. For this concern, we light a candle. And we also light a... Oh. Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Oh, the concern? Yeah. The concern was from Michael Gardner for Tori Butler, who has been in the hospital with COVID, and she is now off oxygen and will hopefully be home soon. Thank you for asking me to repeat it. And our cares for the world. As always, we light a candle for our world that is sadly in need of our love and care. We have wars going on throughout the globe, in Ukraine, in Lebanon, in the Philippines, where someone took a gun into their Senate and luckily no one was injured. We also lift up cares for our world, for wildfires in Texas and in the plains, in California and in Minnesota, and for the drought that we're experiencing here. We lift up these cares and concerns for our world as we light a candle. And we light a final candle each week for the joys and concerns and cares for our world that are deeply felt but not yet spoken. And as we enter into our time of prayer and meditation, I invite you to shake out your arms, let go of any tension in your shoulder and in your bodies, and settle yourself into your seat wherever you are joining us from. Take a deep breath and breathe in the bright sunshine, the warm summer-like air. Let go of any worries or cares and simply be here now. Our prayer this morning is a poem that was written by Colorado's poet laureate, Rosemary Watola Trummer, and it's called Because. So I can't save the world, can't save even myself, can't wrap my arms around every frightened child, can't foster peace among nations, can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart right here in this room and being gentle with my insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first. And if it is insufficient to share love, I will practice loving anyway. I want to converse about truth and about trust. I want to invite compassion into every interaction. One willing heart can't stop a war. One willing heart can't feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by a task too big, I tell myself, what's the use of even trying? But today the invitation is clear: to be ridiculously courageous in love, to open our heart like a lilac in May, knowing freeze is possible and opening anyway, to take love seriously, to give love wildly, to raise up to the world as if it were a puppy, adoring and unjaded, stumbling on my own exuberance, to feel the shock of indifference, of anger, of cruelty, of fear, and to stay open, to love as if it matters, as if the world depends on it. Creative and generative spirit, we offer thanks of gratitude for poetry that cracks open our hearts, to be ridiculously courageous in love. May we love as if it matters, as if the world depends on our love. May it be so. Amen. We'll be held in a moment of silence. Amen.
Our reading this morning, Not Pity, but Compassion, was written by Howard Thurman, Dean of Marsh Chapel at Boston University. Thurman was the first African-American dean of a white university, mentor to Martin Luther King Jr., mystic, and activist. God is at work enlarging the boundaries of my heart. God is making room in my heart for compassion. There is already a vast abundance of room for pity. It is often easy to be overcome with self-pity, that sticky substance that ruins everything it touches. My list of excuses is a long list, and even as I say it, I know that under closest scrutiny, they disappear, one by one. There is pity in me, pity for others, but there is something in it that cannot be trusted. It is mixed with pride, arrogance, cunning. I see this only when I expose myself to the eyes of God in the quiet time. It is now that I see what my pity really is and the sources from which it springs. God is making room in my heart for compassion, the awareness that where my life begins is where your life begins, the awareness that the sensitiveness to your needs cannot be separated from the sensitiveness to my needs, the awareness that the joys of my heart are never mine alone, nor are my sorrows. I struggle against the work of God in my heart. I want to be let alone. I want my boundaries to remain fixed, that I may be at rest. But even now, as I turn to God in quietness, God's work in me is ever the same. God is at work, enlarging the boundaries of my heart. Here ends our reading.
Now's the time in our service when we accept the morning's offering. This church has been supported by its members and friends since its founding in 1632. Today, we are in a long line of people who have loved and tended to this church and its community. And we do it so that for future generations, we'll have the same gift that we've had of this community. Your gift this morning goes to help support the life and work of our congregation, and you are invited to give as generously as you are able. May the ushers please come forward. And a quick note, Ed's offertory was written by Claude Debussy. and the givers, for sunlight and beautiful balmy summer air, and for gorgeous music on this sunny summer day. Not summer, summer-like day. Have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. What seems conceit, bad manners, or cynicism is always a sign of things that no ears have heard, no eyes have seen. You don't know what wars are going on down there where the spirit meets the bone. I first heard this poem by 20th century Euro-American poet Miller Williams at my home congregation almost 2 decades ago. For a period of time, the minister, Reverend Nathan Dieter, he started every sermon with that poem. Have compassion, not pity, but compassion, the awareness that where my life begins is where your life begins, the awareness that the sensitivities to your needs cannot be separated from the sensitivities to my needs, the awareness that the joys of my heart are never, never mine alone, nor are my sorrows. Hearing Miller Williams's poem week after week, those words slowly sank into my bones, and they became a mantra or a guiding principle for me. Have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. I needed those words during a time and a place in my life when I struggled to find compassion. You see, my 2 kids are neurodivergent. They were diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Frighteningly brilliant, creative, and also easily distracted and perpetually in motion. And as I sat across the table from special ed teachers and teams, I struggled to find compassion, to not otherize them, to not see them as adversaries, because in those meetings, as I sat on one side of the table and they sat on the other, I heard them say some really hurtful and cruel things about my children, words that were utterly devoid of any compassion. Have compassion for everyone you meet, I would think to myself. Have compassion for the teacher who tells you that your child is defiant for not sitting still, when your child literally cannot sit still. Have compassion, the awareness that the sensitiveness to your need cannot be separated from the sensitiveness of my needs, hoping that my sensitiveness to their needs would nurture their sensitiveness to the needs of my children. I needed Miller Williams to remind me I did not know what wars were going on down there where the spirit meets the bone. And sitting in those meetings with my children's teachers, I wondered often, how? How do I hold compassion when the world can feel out of control, and when I am witness to daily acts of indifference and cruelty and to suffering and to pain? How? How do we hold compassion? I found myself leaning more and more on what was for me at the time my new faith tradition. I leaned into what were then our Unitarian Universalist principles that are now our shared Unitarian Universalist values, because these principles and these values reminded me of a world that I wanted to live in, a world that I could envision. And Unitarian Universalism is not an easy religion. We don't have certainties. We don't have certainties about if there's a God. And if there is a God, who is that God? And what do they call us to do and to be? Instead, we have responsibilities. Responsibilities that come along with being a covenantal faith. Because we covenant together, you and I. We make promises to each other about how we will be in relationship with one another and with our world. These promises that bind us together in religious community. These shared values. And when I read those values, they seem so easy, simple, and yet they're really difficult. The value of equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. This is a rabbit hole, I'm going to just tell you, that value. It's easy to declare it. It's easy that we can say everyone, of course everyone has inherent worth and the right to flourish, and it feels good to speak that aloud. Makes our heart full, and we declare it and we affirm it, that this value is something we hold together. And it's so difficult to do as we begin to unravel all of those threads of what it means to live that value. Have compassion. Compassion that calls us to take action to alleviate the suffering of others. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a space with other UU ministers, and as our time together was coming to a close, an African American minister was giving our closing remarks. They were only one of two people of color with us that day. And they said to us, "I have been changed by being with all of you, being in your presence, sharing in worship together, sharing our thoughts, sharing ideas and feelings. I have been changed by your presence. And you all have been changed by mine." This human impact brings responsibility, that minister said. A responsibility to show up for them in a world that is not safe for African American people. A responsibility to work for liberation. In a world where the Voting Rights Act was just gutted by our Supreme Court, with southern states racing to gerrymander along racial lines to disenfranchise Black voters, we have a responsibility. Equity becomes, then, a really difficult value to uphold. It's more than just that feel-good statement, that affirmation, because it comes down to a responsibility to act. And we are called to have compassion. Because I don't know what wars are going on down there where the spirit meets the bone. I don't know what it is to be a person of color in America today. But I am called to compassion. And cultivating compassion is not an easy task. In the words of the late climate justice and human rights advocate Joanna Macy, compassion boils down to not being afraid of the suffering of the world or of yourself. It involves being open to what you're feeling about that suffering, grief and fear and rage and overwhelm, and brave enough to experience it. You can't heal something you're afraid to go near. Compassion is what impels you to act for the sake of the larger whole, or, put more accurately, it is the whole acting through you. Compassion asks us to dwell, to abide in our suffering and the suffering of others, to cultivate The awareness that where my life begins is where your life begins. The awareness that the joys of my heart are never mine alone, nor are my sorrows. Unitarian Universalism is a faith, it has faith in our strength and our ability to join others in their suffering. Even as it echoes our own hurts and broken places, our faith knows that we are able and capable of it. Because when we're in relationship with one another, when we covenant to live into values that honor our inherent worth, our interdependence, we cannot be indifferent to the suffering of others. This beautiful faith tradition of ours asks us to love as if we are not afraid of pain, not afraid of suffering. It asks us to cultivate compassion, to expand the boundaries of our hearts, even when we want to keep those boundaries fixed where they are with those high walls, protecting our soft and vulnerable hearts from new hurts. We cultivate compassion even when sitting across the table from folks who sure do not feel like allies. We cultivate compassion even for those who are causing harm. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, to look deeply into the suffering of those who have caused us to suffer is a miraculous gift. It is a gift. It is a gift to find compassion in our hearts for those on the other side of a conflict. Compassion is relational. We can't heal something we're afraid to get near. We cannot heal our broken world if we cannot find the compassion within ourselves to impel us forward into action. Not easy, my friends. This is not easy work. To have compassion for everyone you meet, especially when they don't want it. But what I have learned over my decades, since I began practicing compassion, is that transformation is possible. It's possible when we act out of compassion rather than anger and hurt. And I believe that our faith calls us to cultivate compassion as an expression of our UU values, to have compassion for everyone we meet, to center our radical love that moves us beyond our differences to the reminder that we are called to expand the boundaries of our hearts, to dwell in our collective pain, to awaken our compassion, and to act for the sake of the larger and greater whole. May it be so. Amen. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing We Would Be One. The lyrics are at 318 in the gray hymnals, and they will also be on our screens. extinguishing as we say the words that we say each week, written by Minister Reverend Elizabeth Selly Jones.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You may be seated. Our benediction this morning is a repeat of the Miller-Williams poem, Compassion. This is my wish for all of us as we leave this sacred time and space together. May you have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. What seems conceit, bad manners, or cynicism is always a sign of things that no ears have heard, no eyes have seen. You do not know what wars go on down there where the spirit meets the bone. Our service begins when our service ends. Go in peace.